Hey everyone, wanted to bring up a subject today that is at first not going to be, it's going to be a bit about education kind of, but then it'll roll into kind of how it kind of ties into everything else that's, when it comes to atheism, stuff like that. So one thing I want to talk about today is homeschooling. And homeschooling's really changed a lot from, I think, what a lot of people see it as or it was. Like it always, and this definitely still happens to a certain degree, where it's like mom and or pop sit at home and we'll sit down with you and teach you or whatever. And with homeschooling nowadays, there's like, especially in Florida, where I'm from, it can be any number of things. Like if you have two public schools kids, maybe that were even in, like you take them, they were both in cliques, the same kind of cliques. They both came from different public schools, but they were very similar. You'll find a lot of similarities between the things that how they were taught and the style and everything. But with homeschooling, it's a lot different. You can learn completely online through Florida Virtual School and other online schools. You can do dual enrollment, which means you go take classes at college. There are homeschool schools that are kind of like college, where you just go once or twice a week and then get homework and come back the next week, and you actually sit in a classroom with other homeschoolers. And and there's a couple other, and then you can have that mom and pop situation. So there's all these different things that you can combine and mix and whatever. So it actually makes it for a pretty interesting experience, because it's very flexible. There's a lot of opportunities while being homeschooled that you wouldn't normally get. And they do actually have a decent amount of support for it. They have homeschool sports teams, or you can join pretty much any school you want to. You can kind of go around to any public school. You don't have to be forced to play for your public school, as I'm pretty sure is how it works. And they even have fitness programs like PE class. They have that for homeschoolers. Like down where I'm at, it's called Saints. And you would go and just play sports pretty much the whole time. It's actually pretty cool. And you didn't have to deal with a lot of the BS of, oh, well, you have to run the mile and you have to do this and that. No, you pretty much just played sports the entire time, which was pretty cool. Here's the thing, is that where I wanted to take this is that homeschooling's great and whatnot, but it seems like it's a way. The reason why a lot of people do it is because it gets away from the actual like teachings of like evolution and stuff like that. What they do is I actually had a textbook. It was called Exploring Creation Through Physics, or Exploring Creation Through Chemistry, and I think it's funny because I mean, like, I was a Christian back when I was taking all these classes, but now that afterwards, and I'm thinking about this, and from just a couple like passing things I've seen online about homeschooling, I can actually attest to this now. I can actually say that it's true because I was there. I There's this, I forget his name, but I had this teacher who was actually like, he was really famous in the creationist community because he created this like fossil, um, like this trip in Central Florida, I think, and like you go on this river and like you look for fossils and stuff like that, and they would tell you what it came from, or try to do it at the best of their abilities. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Now that I think of it now, that the way that a lot of people are getting all this disinformation is through homeschooling, when in reality it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm sure you could find it, you can make it to a point where you like don't have to deal with that misinformation. But like Saints, the PE program I went to, Christian. The sports program, Christian sports. A lot of the class textbooks were Christian. A lot of the teachers were Christian. So it seems like it's kind of Christians' cop-out of having to actually deal with real information. Now, it's not impossible to be homeschooled and have to deal with that, I'm sure. But, I knew an atheist when I was at one of the homeschool schools down here. And, you know, I never talked to him about it, but I'm curious to what his perspective on that was when he was there as an atheist. So I thought that's funny because it's just very strange to me when I think about it now. It's just like, yeah, it's totally a way for these Christians to just skip the evolution because they think it's wrong, or they have no idea about it or whatever. And that's what even like my mom would tell me or whatnot. She was like, oh, well, you know, your cousin's going to public school and she's learning all these terrible things. And before I was homeschooled, I went to private school. Guess what? Christian private schools. So now everything's starting to come together, and I just really wanted to like talk about this and kind of get it out there from someone who was actually in the homeschool community for 4 years. And well, I mean, I was really in it for like a year and a half to two, and then I was in dual enrollment for the rest of my time, and that doesn't really count as homeschool community in my opinion. But it's just like if you're gonna be homeschooled, if you're gonna homeschool your child, be careful because the majority, from what I've seen and what I've personally experienced out there, is all really Christian stuff. They might teach your kid creationism, and you know, they might influence your child because I didn't these homeschool schools, they're not considered schools technically, so they don't have to follow all the rules that school has to. Like some of the teachers were pretty open about their religion, and I mean, like they didn't try to, not all of them try to put it in the classroom, but like everyone knew that Mrs. you know yada yada was a Catholic or a Christian, or you know Mr. you know B was a Christian, and I just think that it can be a very bad place if you are really concerned about that kind of thing. And then you hear, and then that brings up a problem because it's just like, do you put your kid into public school where you know you hear about these terrible things, or do you put them in private school, which are almost always religious, or do you homeschool them, which is almost always religious, but you could homeschool them yourself and then teach everything yourself, but you know if you're a single parent, that's not going to happen. You know, and that's just even hard for families nowadays, just because of the economy and whatnot. So that's just something I really wanted to put out there for anyone who doesn't really know anything about it, and people who are possibly looking into that possibility. As someone who was homeschooled for the past 4 years, I'm not going to really go into the details of homeschooling. I could do that in a different video about the social aspects and pros and cons of it. But when it comes to homeschooling and religion, it's just it's important to keep that in mind. So that's pretty much it. If you have any thoughts or questions about any of the things I've talked about in the video, please let me know. And I'm sure there's plenty of other resources online that you can find this. And if you go and actually look at some homeschooling pages, like they are not closed. They're not in closet about their Christianity or religion at all. It's very open, and I feel like it's going to be very hard to find places that don't do that. I went to one place that you know the teachers were religious, but the homeschool school itself did not put itself out there as religious, even though you know in some ways the way that they enforced their rules were. So if you have any questions about that or in homeschooling in general, or if you want to have me talk about more about my homeschooling experience when it comes to the social aspect and all that other stuff, please let me know, and I'll try to get on that for you. Thank you very much.